This is a quick introduction tutorial for the Radeon ProRender Add-in for SOLIDWORKS 2016 and SOLIDWORKS 2017. I've loaded a simple brick assembly here, and let's start off by reviewing where we can find the basic properties for Radeon ProRender. We'll come up to the Tools menu, and under Radeon ProRender we have the Properties page. And if we look over here in the Properties panel, the most important thing, the thing you'll often want to get to first, is the output image size. And right now I've got it set to 1280 by 720, the same as 720p output for HDTV. You'll see below the image size render settings and a selection of device. Most of the time you want to leave it at all GPUs, but in special circumstances you might want to come down and pick a specific rendering device. If your GPU is not supported, you always have the fallback of selecting CPU rendering. Render completion settings is a way to tell Radeon ProRender when to stop and save your image. And we're going to click and turn on autosave here, and I'm just going to reduce the number of minutes to 1. And this way, especially if you're running on a laptop or something where the power might run out, you'll always be guaranteed that you'll have some sort of render. I'm just going to put a file name in here. Okay. Below that we see some settings that control not only the quality but the time that it takes to do your render. Mesh quality, scene, means respect what SOLIDWORKS has got set up in terms of tessellation and the smoothness of curves. And below that we have render quality, and you can select low, medium or high. These are sort of shortcuts so that you don't have to know a lot of detail about how ray tracing works. We're going to go ahead and use low for now, which basically has anti-aliasing turned off, and max ray bounces, which is the way the light bounces through transparent objects like glass and transparent plastics. We'll set that at 8, which is a reasonable default. I'll go ahead and close this and bring up the ProRender rendering window here. Again, Tools, Radeon ProRender rendering window. And when I bring it up, immediately it will start rendering. If this is the first time you've installed Radeon ProRender on your system, you may also see a message come up telling you that it's initializing shader cache, and that's an additional step that happens just once after you install the plugin and should take no more than 5 or 10 seconds. So we see the rendering happening here, and we see we have a very plain sort of gray plastic appearance. You'll notice that in places the image looks a bit noisy, and that's the way that Radeon ProRender style rendering works. It starts off noisy and becomes progressively more refined and more smooth looking. And you can see up here underneath Orbit Camera, you can see iterations, and that tells you how many rendering attempts the ProRender has taken, and as it goes up, so the image quality will improve. But we don't need to sit here and wait for it to finish. Let's go ahead, let's make the window a little bit smaller and tuck it over here, and let's go make some changes in SOLIDWORKS. So, for example, I have the appearances opened up. Let me just put this window here and this one over there so we can see what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and find, for example, glass. So let's find green glass and go ahead and drag it over onto one of these bricks. I'll drag it onto the top brick here. I'll assign it just to that brick. And having made that appearance change inside of SOLIDWORKS, you see that immediately we're starting to see the effect over in ProRender. Likewise, let's go over to the plastics. Let's get some yellow plastic in here. This is a high gloss with lots of reflection. Here's a medium gloss with less reflection. Let's just do the high gloss again. And you'll see the effect over in the rendering window. We'll go ahead and put some blue plastic there. And let's just go pick something different. So under rubber, under texture is tire tread. So let's go ahead and apply a tire tread to this brick over here on the right. So I've done all of that, and we can start to see those effects in the ProRender window. And there are a couple of things you can do to affect the quality and the way that your output looks. And the first thing, a very useful tool, is there is a ProRender specific camera. I can go ahead and click Orbit Camera, and now by using the middle mouse button I can rotate and adjust my view using the ProRender preview quality, and you'll see that the quality drops a little bit so that you get faster interaction, and then as soon as I let go of the mouse it comes back into sharp focus again. And so I can affect the way that I want to look. I can zoom out, I can zoom in, I can also move in or out, so I can dolly the camera, and then I can also move the camera position left and right, so I can fine-tune how I want to look at this model. The next thing that you probably want to do, depending on your monitor and the way you're going to print your image, is change the gamma correction. And some SOLIDWORKS appearances can end up looking a bit dark, and the easiest fix for that is just to increase the display gamma, and you can see that overall it brightens the image up. We can also use white balance to make the image a bit warmer. So I've enabled white balance. I'll go to color temperature and change the temperature a bit, and you can see that those grays start to look a bit warmer. Again, I can rotate the camera at any time, and Radeon ProRender will catch up and start rendering. The other option you have at the top here is tone mapping, and this is really sort of adjusting the way the camera is looking at the world. One easy example to think about is photolinear, and photolinear, when I select it, gives us some things that look a bit like a digital camera. So if I go ahead and turn up the sensitivity, you see the scene gets a bit brighter. If I reduce the exposure time, just as it would with a camera, things get a bit darker. And finally, I can use the f-stop as a way to control the brightness too. So those are the sorts of effects that you can have on the image. You'll notice when I make these adjustments, the image quality stays the same. So you can make adjustments on any of these items on the right without stopping and starting your rendering. You'll see it's still carrying on, it's still at 255 here. So the final thing we want to do is save the image. I'll go ahead and click Save. I can pick my image format that I want. I'll go ahead and say I want PNG, and I'm going to save it brickstack.png, and that's how you save the image. And that's the end of this brief tutorial on Radeon ProRender.